Hello, friends, and welcome to the Weekend Catch-Up Club, the coffee morning show brought to you live every Saturday direct to Facebook and available later on demand at youtube.com/gamertide. For episode 29, I am joined by a very special guest. It is the Games Business Operations Manager for Huawei, Dominika Szot. Dominika, thank you for agreeing to be on the show and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today. It's my honor, like the table has turned, like you said, and now I'm the guest. So
That's it. That's
let's
it.
see.
So you are not just the Games Business Operation Manager. You are also a bit of a podcaster yourself, right?
Yes, absolutely. I've started the podcast last year about women in games, in gaming and esports, actually. So yeah.
It's been one of my regular mainstays. Whenever I check into LinkedIn every morning, I think, oh, has Dominika published a new episode yet? It's like, God, I'm stuck on episode 9. Where's episode 10 coming?
I know. It's supposed to be out last week, but I had, I just needed a break. So I thought that it would be best to be honest with my audience and to say to them that, I feel so passionate about that and I feel so blessed that I can do it, but I still want to enjoy that. So at the point once I realized that I'm rushing too much into that and I need some creative space, I just decided to take a break for a little while.
Yeah.
But I'll be back this week actually with a new one, so I won't keep you waiting any longer.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. So I mentioned there that you are the Games Business Operations Manager for Huawei. Can you explain exactly what that is, specifically what you do in that role, and then we'll maybe move into, mobile as a gaming platform and just how big this business has become.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So I guess that to explain that specifically, we would need an hour or two or a day because
and a
I'm
spreadsheet, a presentation or something.
Yeah, exactly. And the proper training for myself as well, because I'm doing so many things that it's always hard to, embrace that in one coherent answer, but I'll do my best. So in general, I'm in charge of the gaming operations for Huawei App Gallery. App Gallery is the third largest mobile store that exists next to the Google Play and App Store. And we're working on bringing that to gamers, to users across Europe and other continents, but I'm focused on Europe, like mainly on Central and Eastern Europe, but I'm working closely with other regions. And my role in the company is to firstly onboard good titles, onboard new titles to the App Gallery. They can be either very popular ones, but they can also be a bit less known, maybe some indie games. We strongly believe in the quality of the content, so that's something that is the key driver for us when it comes to selecting the partners we're working closely with. And the second area, let's say, is after the onboarding to develop the strategy for growth for our key partners. We take care of all the games, but there are, of course, some which are, the gems, and we try to bring the visibility to them, bring the traffic, create some dedicated campaigns. Like one of the example to just give you the context of what I'm doing is the Garena Free Fire tournament that I did last year. We basically organized everything remotely. It took place in Romania, but
Wow.
yeah, and it was a great experience. And the Garena was really growing at that point. It's still growing, but it was like a bit before the boom. On the title, and we've basically organized their everything, and that's some of the things we're doing for our partners. So in general, trying to think outside the box, create the business growth strategy, curate the content inside the store, so all the collections, all the articles, etc. So if you have any complaints about that, I'm the person to blame. So this is my biased choice.
It sounds like you're not very busy then at all, really.
No.
It's yeah, just a few things going on there. So you mentioned that like surfacing the games that are like really special. They're really quite significant, and it's not just because a lot of these stores, whether it's the Nintendo Switch or the Xbox Store or the PlayStation Store or God forbid Steam, a lot of these games become what's kind of referred to as shovelware, where it's just like 50 or 100 games every single day hitting the App Store. So you mentioned a key part there is to really surface like the ones that you want to spotlight and really feature as like a really great game. So that sounds really important and quite fascinating, as well as being able to work with those indie developers like so closely as well, or not just indie developers, like big developers as well.
Definitely. I'm finding that really rewarding, especially once we have the titles that have potential to grow but don't have a space in other stores. So those are probably the most exciting partnerships because you have to build something from scratches. But then to advertise the titles that are already popular in the new and unique way to the new audience is another challenge we're having. So we always need to like balance what is that our users need and what is that we want to add to that, because we can't just push onto them all our selection, because there are some trends in the industry that actually made them choosing certain games, so we can't prevent them to comfortably reaching to them. But yeah, it's absolutely it's a great responsibility because you're defining the entertainment for the end user, but in the same time it's a bit of a fun because you can sometimes just discover something that wasn't that obvious and create I wouldn't use the word hit because this is not like our job, it's still in the game, but help this hit be a bit more visible. So yeah.
Have you found that you get the chance to shine a light on something that would normally never probably get noticed, but it's pretty special, and you just kind of take that opportunity to say, you know what, guys, just focus on this over here because this it deserves some love. It deserves a little bit of a showcase, and so you get to do like a really big promotion and features on that particular game.
Yes, I'm not sure I can point one specific title, but I'd rather refer to the project that we did last year. So we partnered with Unity to organize the indie developers content, during which developers could actually upload their game, get the better terms of the agreement to cooperate with us, and then better featuring as well. Probably the featuring they normally wouldn't be able to get like as a single developer, because of course we want to bring to the world the great, less known titles, but in the same time we also have limited amount of space in App Gallery, so we need to somehow balance that. And the Unity competition was a great addition to that, was a great solution actually to that, because we could offer the better visibility to the games that are less popular. And the results will be announced soon. So I can't, because there will be a winner, of course, and there will be the game that is positioned even better than the entire indie selection. But I can't, tell much about that.
Of course. So I have to be honest with you. Mobile gaming is a side of the industry I know very little about. And I always hear like the bad stories of mobile gaming, the app store where a child has spent hundreds of dollars on the app store through microtransactions and these mechanics coming into games which are for like the home consoles and all this negative stuff that the mobile sector has kind of influenced and permeated into the broader gaming world. But saying that, there are so many like great examples of what mobile gaming can do. And I was reading a TechCrunch article today where they were talking about like the growth over the past couple of years, or how it's just exploding. I think they mentioned a stat of about 150, $160 billion for the entire global industry for gaming, and about almost 70 billion of that is just mobile, or just over half. And that is staggering to as a layman in terms of mobile gaming, to get my head around that is absolutely staggering. And obviously you'll be championing like mobile gaming as a platform for quite a while. I'd love to just get your insight into just the growth of like that we're seeing in mobile over the past couple of years, and of course like projected growth as well over the next several years.
Yeah, so initially, before I started to work in mobile, I had a very similar opinion on this part of the industry because my background is in PC indie games, so this is like the real gaming, the area
the
where we
proper
make games.
stuff.
Exactly. We do them because we love them, and then they are bad guys from mobile. And then I actually entered the mobile industry. So yes, always be careful what you wish for. And I found myself being amazed by what is happening here. Mostly because, of course, there is the part that you've mentioned, the one that children are spending like exorbitant amount of money. Of course, that happens, and there is a lot of really trash content on the stores. But this can be also related to Steam or other PC platforms. Not all the games are of the perfect quality, and this is the idea why mobile gaming is actually really interesting, because everyone can find something for themselves. And the boom has started like in 2012 or something like that, and it's like almost exponential growth. There was like the chart. I'm not sure who published that, so I won't make up my mind now. But there was a chart when you had all the streams of revenue from different sector of gaming visualized, and mobile was almost like the vertical line, like quickly grew, right? And I think that one of the main reasons why that happened is, first of all, the quite low entry level. I'll expand on that in the moment, but quite low entry level to start to make games and to start to monetize them once you're the beginner. And of course, it's getting harder once you try to professionalize, right? But that's one factor, and I think it's very important. And the accessibility of the mobile game as an entertainment, because the target group for mobile games is much bigger than for PC or consoles, right? The developers can finally tap into the market they've never had a chance to address before, like the LATAM or APAC or MENA. Those are maybe MENA not that much, but LATAM, especially like Brazil, all the South America countries, and same applies to countries in APAC like Indonesia, Philippines, places like that. India is another example of mobile gaming untapped potential, and those are the markets for which like the access was very limited, mostly because of the accessibility of the hardware to the players. So now with the mobile gaming, it's much more easier to reach those people, because in like our world, almost everyone has a device, right? A mobile device. And this, in the same time, is not only the tool to communicate, but it's also a tool to access the games. So that's something I think was a game changer for mobile games industry. And in the same time, the diversity of the entertainment and the fact that you can consume it on the way, so you can find the hyper casual game that would kill your time once you're commuting to work, and you can find something more immersive that actually can turn into esports tournament, right? So there is everything for everyone, and I think it won't stop here. I think it will just get more professionalized and probably also enter a bit of the esport. And I assume that AAA developers would like to cut a pie of that as well. But that's another challenge.
I mean, it's just a matter of time before we get something as huge as League of Legends or something. I mean, I may already have. I'm probably showing my ignorance here about the big hitters of games, but League of Legends is huge in the Asia Pacific market, so it's just a matter of time before like the mobile variants like Heroes of the Storm and these big games get over there, and then they just explode like crazy. I mean, one of the stats I was reading, it was projecting about 2.4 billion people around the world are mobile gamers, and that's obviously just going to grow. And you've got the huge hitters like Activision with Call of Duty Mobile are now there. That's only been out maybe a year or two, but that's been hugely successful. Blizzard Entertainment with Diablo coming to mobile. But not just that, we're also seeing like the main platforms like Xbox and Microsoft with the xCloud initiative is basically a way of using streaming technology to play on your mobile device. So it's a really fascinating side to the business, which is not just about downloading and installing a game on your device, which is the kind of traditional method, but cloud streaming is factoring in like crazy as well now. And it's fascinating to see where this industry is going to be taking us, both mobile and both gaming and technology in general, as to like where are we going to end up in a couple of years? Like, are we going to have like we won't need the mobile phone? We're going to have like some kind of headset device or like a heads-up display, and it's all just in our minds or something. It's crazy to think how advanced everything is getting and how fast it's all accelerating as well. It's wild.
Yes, absolutely. I think you've touched on the very interesting topic of cloud gaming, because that's something I gave a lot of thoughts recently, especially considering the mobile games design. Because, in my opinion, like cloud gaming, it's not that much mobile gaming once you have it on the phone. It's more like the mobile experience, you know?
Yep.
So, it's a bit of a tricky way to play the game that you have normally on your console or on your PC or something. And now suddenly you need to, squeeze it in the small screen of the phone, right? So this can be really challenging for the developers in terms of designing, having in mind, like in the back of their mind, that they not only have to design for the, screens that are getting bigger, but in the same time, screens that are getting smaller. So
Yeah.
how are they going to optimize that? How are they going to squeeze the entire world in this tiny window once
Yeah.
they design for, a huge balcony, right? So
I mean,
that's really
I'm
interesting.
just waiting for the day World of Warcraft can have some kind of mobile version, and then I think we've hit a zenith point of UX design for mobile. If you can have those many windows and that craziness of like information just bombarding the player on a tiny little phone screen, I think at that point we'll probably have cracked the code of where we can
Yeah.
get to in terms of mobile gaming.
Absolutely, absolutely. However, there are some games that already, provide the experience that I personally, it's hard for me to find it entertaining, but I understand that some people can. That those are the games like Guns of Glory, for example, or Guts and Glory. Those are like the strategy real-time games, and they have, exactly the experience that you've described, like
Yeah.
multiple windows. Your like call is getting ready there, then your army is being trained, your troops, then like some monsters attack, and there's like your guild that keeps messaging you. And I can understand how you can get really into this game,
Yeah.
because you feel responsible for something, right? But in the same time, this is kind of the attempt to squeeze the big window into the small one.
Yeah, my wife is a huge mobile gamer fan. I always see her just sitting on the sofa in between our little boy who's only like 3 months old. So whenever he's taking a nap, she'll jump on her mobile phone and play a little game. She's playing one just now. I don't know the name of it, but it looks like the princesses from Frozen, but it's not that. It's
Okay.
like a fantasy game. And so you get to like pick the hairstyles, pick the dresses, and then it's like a palace builder or something like that, where you get
Hmm.
to pick the furnishings and everything. And I've lost her. She's addicted. She's gone.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. But that's exactly what we've discussed. That why mobile gaming is growing that quickly, because you can sit on the couch, have your baby here, and then have like 5 minutes to play, and instantly, almost no loading time.
yeah,
You don't need to like turn on, log in, etc. It's just there. And the game that you've described reminded me of like the very big trend of match 3 games that is happening now, with the layer of the storytelling. And that's something that is like another, big thing in mobile now. And that's something that actually addresses those moments, when the mother is sitting on the couch, having a baby, and then having a bit of the narrative, but in the same time, like easy to access game that like she doesn't need to remember the whole strategy of the kingdom,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
they're saying, yeah.
And she can play it one-handed as well if she has to nurse the baby or do something else. It's just on the one
Yeah.
hand, and that's just like It's crazy. And one of the things I noticed was just the fidelity of mobile game graphics now.
Mhm.
It's crazy how much clarity and detail there is. Do you like where do you think we're going to get to in terms of that? Like PC gaming was always renowned for like the sheer power what these gaming rigs can deliver in terms of the experience of like graphics and visual effects and particle effects and all this crazy technology. Obviously, ray tracing is the big buzzword in the gaming space right now. But mobile gaming is accelerating to such a degree that these mini PCs that you have in your hand, because they are computers, like really powerful computers now. Do you think we'll get to a point where it almost can rival like a games console, or I mean, technically it is a games console in your hand as well, but it's crazy to see where we can maybe get to in terms of just this portable device which can deliver the same experience that you can get on your home system, which would only ever be in the home.
I think, in my opinion, it's not that much of a rival as it's the complementary part of the gaming, landscape. Let's call it this way, because as I've mentioned, like the mobile gaming was initially designed to provide a slightly different type of entertainment, and now is heading a bit more into the, well, let's say AAA direction with all the graphic, even the games like Call of Duty, PUBG Mobile, or Dragon Raja is like one of the game I've discovered recently, and I found it really amazingly designed. But those, are still the games that provide different type of entertainment,
Mhm.
and what can be a plus for the AAA, that, for example, the game is immersive and you can, sink in for many hours, may not necessarily be a benefit once you look on the mobile game,
Mhm.
because you don't have that much time to enjoy the content on mobile as per design.
Yeah.
So and it's more tiring, actually, to sit with the small screen than to sit on your couch, with the big screen
Sure.
and
Yeah.
playing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I really like that message of it could be more like a unity rather than a competitor. One of the big things I love about my Nintendo Switch is you can take it on the go, although admittedly it is massive, it's huge, but then you take it home, you slot it in the dock, and then you've got the sofa experience, which would be a traditional console gaming experience. I I'd be really interested if mobile can get to a degree where, or to get to a point where you can just take it home, like either plug it into some kind of docking system, and maybe again this might actually exist. I know like the Apple Store and the like the Chromecast and stuff like that, you can play the mobile games there. But if it does this kind of like syncing thing where you can just pick up immediately where you left off on a game, so you're not. You don't have the like the home console version or the PC version, and then you have a completely different version just for mobile, and then you're splitting the time in which you have to invest in these games and these experiences. It's the I guess it's like the Netflix model where if you're watching on your TV, you get the app on your mobile phone and you continue watching your movie or your episode of TV or the show that you're addicted to.
yeah, essentially, I guess that's the key idea behind cloud gaming, right? That
Yeah.
you can seamlessly like transfer from one platform to the other without losing the quality of the experience and without being blocked by the loading points or stuff like that. So I'd say that cloud gaming is addressing that a bit at this moment. I'm pretty curious whether the biggest companies would actually go into the model that they would develop the ecosystem themselves. That you have, let's say, Apple TV and Apple phone and Apple VR set, right?
Yeah.
And you can like progress seamlessly between those. Well, we'll see, right?
Yeah.
But that's something I'm interested in, whether they would expand the universe of the experience, essentially, and whether that would be on the side of the content provider or the hardware developers. That's for us to see.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to see where this industry can take us. you must be incredibly busy with new partnerships coming up and new different deals and like developers that you want to be working with and liaising with. How has obviously the pandemic, we refer to it as the new normal. We don't have any events anymore. There's no in-person meetings as such anymore. How has that impacted your kind of day-to-day, your working life, but also how are you like overcoming that as well, like not having these big gaming events that you can go to and like make partnerships and these kind of in-person meetings and connections with?
Yes, that's a really good question. And I think that I was actually recently thinking about that, and I've realized that I'm working in the multinational team. So we are all based in different countries. Of course, there are some people who are like me, based in Poland, but then there are many others, all around the globe that I connect on the daily basis. Some people in China, some people in Italy, Germany, you name it.
Yeah.
In general, many different locations. So even I realized that even if I was in the office, my work would still be pretty much remote because I would have to work with the people who are anyway located in different places that I am. So that part I think is didn't change that much, haven't changed that much. And in terms of and of course, I miss, the brainstorming in the office or
Yeah.
the coffee breaks or stuff like that. And I don't think that for now we have the best response to that, the best reply to what's happening. I don't think that we have the online creative spaces in which the brainstorming can take place. That's
Sure.
something,
Yeah.
I really feel that we're missing, because how you can be creative on the Zoom call, like what with, changing the background, that's not necessarily what we're here for, right?
Sure.
So yeah, it's a good addition, but it doesn't replace the interaction that is happening in the room full of people who,
Yeah. It always feels a bit more formal, but like having to jump on a
yes,
video call, right? As opposed to like just rolling your chair over to somebody's desk and just having a blather and just like, what do you think about this? And then you just have a little bit of a creative brainstorm. I totally
exactly.
agree. I mean, I work with an international team as well. We have designers in Singapore, in New York, and Houston, and the Americas, and it's always very very difficult. We have a weekly afternoon on a Wednesday, like huddle we call it, and it really just kind of becomes like a more of a production meeting rather than like a brainstorming
Mhm.
idea. And of course, the like three time zones is really difficult to coordinate as well. So
Yeah,
sometimes maybe somebody can't make the call because it's like really late in that time zone. So yeah, I totally agree. It's like trying to find an online creative tool, platform, or space that can really foster like brainstorming creativity and like just like sharing doodles of ideas or something like that. Yeah,
exactly.
maybe there's a gap in the market. We should develop something, Dominika. What do you think? We should partner up. Maybe.
Yeah, I guess that if someone's listening to that and has the idea, I can contribute. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that is really missing. And on the daily basis for my personal project, once I'm doing things related to my podcast or helping the girls in the industry, I like to use Discord, because Discord allows for very easy voice calls. So
Yeah.
basically, you just click unmute button and can talk to people. But it still doesn't address the gap, I'd say. But this is some kind of the solution I find quite useful. But for the events, I guess that of course, I miss that. I miss the vibe and the atmosphere of the big crowded places, that are just buzzing with the gaming
Yeah.
energy. But I actually think that during the last months, even without the events, I've managed to meet so many people that I probably wouldn't even be able to meet
Yeah.
during the conferences.
Yeah.
So that's funny. That's funny fact. That's a bit because of my podcast, of course, because
Totally. Uh,
exactly, I've started the.
I'm in exactly the same position. I mean,
Yeah,
I started this show as a bit of a something to take my mind away from the pandemic and being stuck at home, and a
exactly.
way to bring people together and talk and just have a fun conversation about just the game industry, creativity, marketing, that sort of stuff. And I've been fortunate enough to get some amazing people like yourself that are just up for hopping on a call and just chatting about like how things are going and what's really interesting in the industry at any given point. And I think that's one of the really great success stories that maybe we all don't do enough, a good enough job to really trumpet and promote. It's like the things that we've had to do to overcome this kind of isolation and showcase what can be done in this digital online world that we're finding ourselves in. And a lot of new technologies are being developed to support that. I know Zoom, I think we're taken incredibly by surprise at the demand for their platform all of a
Yeah,
sudden. So they've had to develop, back end infrastructure at such a rapid pace than maybe they were prepared for. But it's really great to see and to hear from people that are finding their own ways of coping and, as you said, meeting people that they would probably never meet before because of X reasons, because typically it would have been an in-person event. And so if that person can't travel to the event, they would have never been able to connect with somebody. But because now we can just say, hey, do you want to just jump on this webinar or this presentation or this kind of open huddle space that we've got online, and before you know it, you're chatting to people, and then you're wrangled into appearing on a podcast with somebody.
exactly. I find it really surprising, in the recent months that actually the pandemic situation and the environment that it created forced us to rethink what we focus on
Yeah,
and how we interact with others and what the digital tools are for. Because through the pandemic, I guess that because of the pandemic, I guess we actually speed up the phase of having the digital tools as the tools,
yeah,
and we start to use them as a platforms. So I think that this is a massive step for people and how they interact with the digital environment, that they stopped to use the elements of it as the tools to achieve something, but more as the platforms to communicate with other and to build those communities. It can be, observed in games as Animal Crossing or Roblox, or Fortnite. Of course, it's
yeah.
always a good example of that.
The game that just
uh,
seems to keep on getting bigger and bigger, and I have no idea
yeah,
how, but it's crazy. So,
exactly.
a couple of other topics, and then I'll let you scoot. I'm sure you're probably wanting to get off. So, I've noticed recently you've been invited to do a lot of like talks and presentations at universities. Can you tell us a bit about that? Because it sounds really fascinating and such a cool opportunity to just dive into.
Yes, so it's all started with my university, the one that I finished. I've studied at Coventry University, and I was invited by my one of my lecturer at that point, Edward, who actually I was one of the best tutor I had, and I stayed in touch with him after I graduated. But I studied advertising and marketing, so that's something that is very useful in what I'm doing now. But it's not necessarily. It may not necessarily be perceived as connected on the first sight. So he invited me to speak about the marketing communication in the gaming industry. And I thought that this is exactly something what matches what I'm doing, that trying to educate people about the industry and about the opportunities it gives and the roles that are there. That is not only only is a bad word, but it's not about making games and that's it, but
Yeah,
it's also about all the services run, because game development, gaming, esports, those are actually the sectors that are full proper business sectors
yeah,
now, right? It's
yep.
not just some tiny piece of entertainment industry, it's the industry itself. And I gave the first talk, and it turns out that people are extremely interested in the opportunities. And I thought that I was really charged up after this talk. I really felt that I gave something back, and I helped people to understand which door to choose, and just open them a little bit for them. And I just really love to do that. And after that, it was a bit of the snowball effect, because I'm the ambassador for Women in Games. Is the foundation about for women in games in general. We try to advertise the career opportunities for women in this industry, and bring the awareness to those who already succeeded in gaming and esports world. And through the organization, I was approached by someone from the other university, and all the dots started to connect. And I guess that the most important is uh, to try to give back to the places you were initially in, and that is a great kick off point, and that's how it happened with me. And I really hope, and I'm actually planning to release more education content on gaming and the role within, and the marketing communication for games, but also through games. So I hope I'll be able to give more of those talks in the future and invite all of you.
Sounds fascinating and fantastic. And you're becoming this mentor for, the next generation that want to get into this insane, huge, booming business as well. Where, as you mentioned, there's so many moving parts. It's not just game dev. It's the marketing. It's agreements. It's so much, like so many moving parts of this huge machine. So it's fascinating. I wish I could join a couple, but
yeah, feel free. Feel free. It's actually a great experience, because it's a big responsibility as well, because you are in charge of shaping young people view on the industry and the roles within. And I guess that I remember once I've attended a few talks like that in the past, and it was I was in the age back then when it was everything black or white. So, depends on how someone presented that. I either loved or hate the company, right? And the industry they presented to that. So that's something that has to be kept on mind, that you're actually shaping a bit of the world to those people. So it's very rewarding, but a bit stressful as well.
I can imagine. You must get hit with a lot of questions as well.
Yes.
One thing I wanted to ask, actually, is this just popped into my head, is so we obviously talked about like the marketing side of the games industry. It's not just about the development and making the games. Do you find that like today there are so many vast, almost overwhelming avenues to promote and to like get exposure and get awareness of a particular game or a particular feature of a game or developer out there? Whereas back in my day, because I'm an old cranky gamer, I had like my Nintendo magazine or my really gaming magazines was pretty much the only way to advertise games way back then, or the Nintendo Entertainment System back in the early 80s and that kind of stuff. Whereas now we're so bombarded with media from every avenue. Do you think that's maybe more challenging to try and punch through all of that noise and get people's attention onto something that you really want to try and feature and try and promote?
I think that a key here is to use the old and good theory and models, and to realize that who is your target group, because we have a bigger reach, but we like the industry, the offer that we have is also more fragmented. So actually, it's the pro and con in the same time, because you are unable to reach all the gamers, but you are it is way more possible for you to actually reach those that have bigger potential to be interested in your title. So I think that a key here is to identify the target audience and to do it on the very granular level, and to give it a lot of thoughts and spend a lot of time to understand the player's behavior that you want to target, to understand how they consume the news, how they interact with the content, where to find them, and then choose the right communication mix as well, and choose the right tools. Because like you said, there are so many ways that you can connect with the players. But it's same as with connecting with your friend. You wouldn't call, message, and email him in the same time, right? You're
Like
trying to
bombarding them. Why won't you respond to me? Yeah.
exactly. And send the same sentence and say the same sentence on the phone. That it doesn't work, right? It
Yeah.
won't have the impact that you want. So the same applies to games. And actually, I think that the environment that we have now, the circumstances that cause actually so many channels to arise and so many channels to be used by the video games producers, are actually a great opportunity for smaller developers to do it independently and to target those that can just be interested in their games, because any game can have their audience. But I think that it really has to be well considered and really thought through, because that's something that can be easily ignored. Like you think, oh, I'm doing a game for RPG players. Like seriously, that's your only way of defining who you're making that
it's a little
for.
too broad. That it's just like if you look at the makeup of what an RPG player is, it is so like the breakdown of demographic, it can be so varied. There's so much variety there. And
Exactly.
trying to really sift through that data to focus and harness a proper marketing message can be really challenging at times. But it's incredibly beneficial. Trust the data. The data tells you mostly what you need to know and how to really steer a communication message as well. It's the same with any industry really that deals with marketing, but especially with any B2C product really that can really utilize things like TikTok or Discord or Twitter or Facebook Live events or Instagram stories and all of these crazy technologies that we've got at our disposal now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the consistency is also very important. So if you're choosing to communicate, let's say through Reddit, and you're posting there regularly, and you know that your target group, because let's say that you've already done your homework with the target group, so you know that they are there, and you communicate with them through there. You don't like suddenly change the channel and start to post everything on Facebook, because there's no point. So so just try to be consistent with that, and I guess that's a great and well, that mostly applies to the games, but to the video games or console games, but a bit less to the mobile. It depends on the genre, but mobile are also very much focused on the creative entertainment, creative formats of ads, especially those that are paid ads targeted for user acquisition, and that's slightly different. But many games can benefit from that to do it on the granular level and to identify well your audience.
Yeah, fantastic. So before we wrap up, I just would love to for you to talk a little bit about your podcast. It's Her Game. So we're what 8-9 episodes in, and you've had some incredible, inspiring women in gaming appear as guests. So were these people that you knew already, or did you just kind of reach out cold to say, I'm doing this project, do you want to feature on this? And also, what does the future look like for It's Her Game podcast? Where do you want to go with it?
So basically, it's all started, without much of the preparation. I just felt, many good things in life. So you don't have expectations; they just come, and looks this way. And regarding the guests, it's both actually. I've started with some people I knew, and my first guest was Daria Rubashna. She's ex-YouTube, now she's working in Huawei, and so she knew me, and she was very patient with me with the first recording.
Figuring out the technology side is usually the hardest part, first of all, right?
Exactly. That was the hardest one, and the editing later, and the fact that I was recording from my wardrobe, that's another thing.
Whatever it takes to to dampen the sound, right? So like cushions or like blankets on the walls, that kind of stuff is all pro tips. I love it.
Exactly. And so, like, finally, I had an excuse to have more clothes because, they surround me well and they just absorb the sound. So there is a logical explanation to that now, finally, after so many years. But that's how it started. And after that, once I had the first episode, I actually posted on one of the groups for women in games that I'm just looking for guests that maybe someone would like to share the stories, and I explained what the podcast is about, because it's to just give a context, it's a podcast that, like, my goal with it is to like give a shout out to generally women who are successful in gaming and esports world, and they can be successful in so many ways, in the corporate roles, as a self-made creators, as the part of the indie studios, working for a non-profit, etc., and working in different roles, from business operations through game development, creative, research, consulting, some educational elements of gaming. So many facets on that, and I'm doing that to give the overview to the younger generation on the industry, but also to build the to build the awareness among the women that they should be proud of what they're doing, and I'm always saying that to my guests after we finish and we have a chat, let's say a week or two later, that they, let's say, feel worse, or they have like the bad day, and I'm always saying that it's just half hour, listen to your episode, listen to that as it was the story of someone else, and then you'll feel that you actually accomplished a lot, and you are in the position that you should be proud of yourself. And I came to this conclusion after I read my own bio in the email that I sent to one of the girls, and I traced back the thread of the emails, and I was like, "Wow, that's such a good bio," And then I was like, "That's mine," that's the one I sent to her, and I was like, "Whoa!" So it's everything. We're really giving ourselves a hard time, and we should give more, pat on the backs and shout outs. So that's the whole idea behind. And with the guests, it started, as a tiny post on the community, and then the snowball effect again, and one post after another, one girl after another, and I just started to connect with girls, and they started to recommend me to their friends whether they might be interested in being featured on the podcast. And now I'm also inviting people I've never had contact before, because I already have 9 episodes, so they can have the overview on what's happening. And I hope to have the 10th one finally this week. And from then on, I guess I'll be publishing every 2 weeks to give the time for the Q&A as well, and to gather some more questions from the audience, and have time to actually prepare the questions on the basis on what people want to hear from those guests.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been thoroughly enjoying the podcast, and one of my key takeaways that I, when I first started listening to it, was that you're really creating champions for women, young women that are thinking about not just getting into the games industry, but it's like STEM subjects as well, because STEM is so challenging for women to really get recognized in, or that's the way it seems anyway, and to not only that, but to be successful in as well. And the guests that you've had on are so kind of varied as all spectrums of game development, from the technology side, from the artistic side, from the business side. And it's really, really encouraging, and I hope more people will take the chance to listen to it and follow the channel on Spotify and wherever it eventually pops up into. And I hope to see eventually like the It's Her Game, the live roadshow podcast or something like that at some point.
I'd love that. And actually, what you've mentioned about the STEM and the technology world, that's something I'd like to expand into more in the future. I'd like to also have women from the technology, the broader technology world, because after some initial experience with career advising and with mentoring, I've noticed that girls have amazing potential and they are really, really talented, but they lack the confidence. And
Sure.
that's something, that's something not only caused by their self-esteem, but also by the lack of the people they can look up to. Like we're not, promoting enough women. And I'm not saying that because I want to highlight the fact that because she's a woman, she achieved something. That's not the point,
Mhm.
It's just to show that this is an amazing girl. She achieved something great, right? Not because or like against or anything else. No, just she's great. And I just want other girls, the younger one, to see
Yeah.
that.
I couldn't agree more. So just out of curiosity, do you have like a dream guest that you'd love to have on the show?
Um, yes, there are a few. And I don't want to jinx it.
Okay, okay.
So I won't say that. I'm actually talking to one that I really wanted to interview, and I really hope she'll find the time. But yeah, the list is just, getting longer actually, because I've started with one woman that I really wanted to interview. And over the time, once I started to get more and more girls in this industry, I've started to also pay more attention to, women in this world.
Mhm.
And I have now a really long list that is probably with the double digit in front now, not the
Fantastic,
single
yeah.
one. And it's just getting longer, but it's also a good fuel to continue, and to keep doing that.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. And I hope to have you back on for another episode of the Weekend Catch Up Club. Maybe we can do
Yay.
another one of just you, but maybe we can get like a group chat together or something like that. I believe
Awesome.
I'm going to be outnumbered from the tweets from earlier that it's like all five women and me that want to get together for a group chat. So that sounds like something that hopefully we can make happen as well. So Dominika, thank you for your time. We'll wrap this up. It's been a fantastic, almost an hour chatting about gaming, about technology, about the podcasting. Life in a pandemic has been an absolutely great show. So thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen. This has been episode 29 of the Weekend Catch Up Club. If you've enjoyed the podcast, then do give it a like and a share. If you're watching later on demand, then maybe hit that subscribe button. And until next time, take care.